All right, Shalom. All praise to Yahweh Bashim Yahushai. Double honors to the apostles of Great Millstone. Yahweh Bashim Yahushai Brakatham to you, hopefully elect. And just back through the spirit once again. Lord willing, this be edifying. Just doing some studying earlier. And just got out the gym, so the blood is flowing, and my adrenaline is kind of pumping. So again, just through the spirit. Just wanted to strike this while the iron was hot. Because again, through the spirit, I was just doing some studying earlier and just going over some Hebrew and whatnot, and that's where I got the title from of this for this video. Because pretty much the English version, you translate it to the English from Hebrew to the English, it's somewhere along the lines of like a burden barrier or a bearer, because I was again studying, and part of my studies I was going over Amos, which that's where the Hebrew I'm wash. All right, if I'm saying it right, I might be saying it wrong, but I'm wash, or I'm wash. All right, and again, I could be pronouncing it wrong or saying it wrong, but like I said, that's where I got because I was just going through some words and whatnot. I was studying in Hebrew, studying in the book of Amos, and I was just the Spirit prompted me to just let me see, going over the Hebrew real quick, just look up the name, and sure enough, again, it's where just through the Spirit inspired me to do this. All right, because that's pretty much what we are, bearers of bad news. You see, because hey, to the prophets, we're pretty much like the saying in the world, man, like the shit on our parade, right? Well, hey, that's pretty much what the prophets are, because for the most part, the prophets always came with a burdensome message, to those that hate the truth, of course, because this gospel, hey, as brothers have been saying, to these people, their bad news is really our good news. All right, the fact that America's going down, and so on and so forth, all the other so-called bad news, and because again, Jake, I always say this, how Jake treats us like a burden, when it comes to serving the Yahweh Shemal Shah, man. They always make it out to like the Lord is asking us to, I always say, juggling on a ball with one leg, and try to juggle a pair of balances while blindfolded with one hand tied behind our back. That's how Jake treats this. Like I said, burdensome. Well, hey, that's why 2/3, man, they're gonna die in the midst thereof, and they're gonna die out here. I'm gonna get this to start off in Jeremiah chapter 23. Because again, when we come bearing this message, Jake, man, every time the prophets come around, it's like, oh, here we go. What y'all niggas gonna, talk about now? Well, what y'all got to say now? How y'all gonna f up our day now? And that's pretty much Jake's attitude whenever the prophets come around. That's why, this is like a burdensome. This is like a burden unto Jake. Again, going back to the title, man. Hey, I'm wash. A burden bearer. We're always the ones that come around bearing the bad news and shit on people's parade, but it's all through the Spirit of the Lord, because hey, at the end of the day, we're simply just messengers, man. So I'm gonna get this, because as we know, man, it's it's not us that you're rejecting, it's not us that you're talking shit against. All right, it's not us you're coming up against. So I'm gonna get this in Jeremiah chapter 23. I'm going to start at verse 33, Jeremiah 23 and 33. And when this people, or the prophet, or a priest shall ask thee, saying, what is the burden of the Lord? Thou shalt then say unto them, what burden? I will even forsake you, saith the Lord. So you see, because again, every time, the men of the Lord come around, and especially for people that know us, all right, because, as we grow in this truth, more and more we stop coming around certain families, friends, certain events, all right, you know, or if we do come around, you know, because it's just a spirit that's in us to do so. You know, we always, you try to dumb yourself down for these people to get on their level, and you know, you'll try to get into sports or whatever, you know, whatever Jake is into nowadays, man. But it's just like you can't, because eventually it's just like the spirit is just going to speak through us, and we're going to eventually start talking about scriptures. Eventually we're going to talk about the destruction of Babylon, all right, how the dollar's going to collapse and all these other things, man. You know, because again, it's just the spirit that's in us. It's just, we can't help it, you know, because that's where our mind is at, man. The hell with this place, right? You know, so like I say, you come around, let's say, you know, certain families around certain holidays and whatnot, you know, now though we don't celebrate Thanksgiving or none of that, but there's nothing wrong with, you know, getting you a plate, you know, getting you something to eat. Maybe haven't seen some family members in a while, and you know, you want to, you know, visit some family and whatnot, right? You know, but you end up coming around, and you know, you'll try to tell yourself, convince yourself that, listen, I'm not even gonna waste my time telling these Negroes that, you know, you're not supposed to be celebrating this madness, you know, and whatnot. But you know, you come around, and eventually you just the spirit overtakes, and you know, you start telling Jake, man, you're not supposed to be celebrating this shit anyways, you know. And they're just, you know, they're always, here we go, you know, you and that the end of the world talk, you know. that's you know, that's how Jake looks at this, man. That's how they look at us. So again, in Jeremiah 23:33, and when this people or the prophet or priest shall ask thee, saying, what is the burden of the Lord? Thou shalt then say unto them, what burden? I will even forsake you, saith the Lord. So you see, because again, every time we come around, especially people that know us, know what we're about, you know, it's like we come around, it's like, man, how do you feel about this? What do you got to say now? How are you going to shit on my parade now? How are you going to ruin my day now? You know, that's pretty much Jake's attitude. Again, it's not us that you're rejecting, man. It's Yahweh Shema Shai. So I'm gonna read that in the NLT. Jeremiah 23:33 in the NLT says, suppose one of the people or one of the prophets or priests ask you, what prophecy has the Lord burdened you with now? You must reply, you are the burden. The Lord says he will abandon you. All right. So again, because again, here it is, Jake is looking at us like, you know, we're the problem, when in fact you're the problem. You know, because hey, if all Israel were to repent right now, if every so-called Negro, Latino, Native American Indian were to repent right now, then we'd be in the kingdom by the morning. You know, so here it is, Jake is trying to blame the Most High and blame us. Listen, you're the problem, you're the burden, right? He says, and as for the prophet and the priest and the people that shall say the burden of the Lord, I will even punish that man and his house. Thus shall you say, everyone to his neighbor and everyone to his brother, what hath the Lord answered, and what hath the Lord spoken? And the burden of the Lord shall ye mention no more, for every man's word shall be his burden. For ye have perverted the words of the living God, of the Lord of hosts, our God. All right, now mainly talking about, you know, these so-called leaders in Israel, these false prophets and whatnot. All right, so Salakia about that. But from there, because again, you know, when we come around, it's always, well, what are these guys got to say now? How are they gonna ruin our day now? All right, so what I'm gonna do, Lord willing, since we're clearly having some technical difficulties, all right, I'm gonna go ahead and do a part 2 to this, because I see where this is gonna go. So, you know, again, Lord willing to come back to do a second part. So that, Shalom and Salakia.